Okay, welcome back. Sorry for the delay. We just had a bit of trouble miking up our panel session. I'd just like to thank Steve Butcher for chairing the first session, and particularly our speakers, Mario, Anika and Gary, for their excellent presentations. Certainly setting the scenes for what will be an exciting second session. It's now my pleasure to introduce Julian Sharp. Julian will be chairing our second session, and he represents one of our other corporate members, enhanced platinum members in CPB contractors. Julian's had a devoted career in the rail industry and continues to have a passion in using his rail skills to improve transport facilities across the nation. He started his career with Balfour Beatty and major projects back in 1990. That's going back a while, Julian.
30 years.
Then Balfour Beatty, his talents in getting the best people in teams became quickly apparent, and seeing him move rapidly through his career into project management, project engineering, and then into alliance manager roles. He became a chartered civil engineer back in 1995. He's working with CPB contractors in North Sydney and really looking after the governance of major projects and providing tender support and work-winning strategies for projects across New South Wales and the ACT. Before that, he was based on the $1.4 billion line-wide project as part of Sydney Metro that CPB have, and where his role was the Deputy Project Director responsible for the delivery of all the engineering interfaces, project controls, testing and commissioning of the rail systems and the related works. Julian has over 30 years of experience in construction industry, both in Australia and the UK. So will you please join with me in welcoming Julian to run our second session. Thanks, Julian.
Thank you, Mark, for that introduction. Yeah, 30 years, crumbs. I can actually say that for the first time this year. So look, it's going to be a fun-packed second session. We have a number of speakers today, one Jacqueline Link and also Joe Francis of Willow Rail. We've also got the Ken Erickson Innovation Award, which is going to be presented by Gareth. And we've also got an interview with the new ARA CEO, Caroline Wilkie. But look, first of all, I wanted to say a few words about CPB. We're obviously very proud to be a platinum sponsor for the PWI, going back many years. And we see great benefit in it and within the rail industry, and especially for New South Wales. From the CPB perspective, we are part of the CIMIC Group, which is a construction company working across Australia, New Zealand, PNG, Asia and India. And there are other parts of the CIMIC Group, as you can see there. CPB basically delivers all the relevant infrastructure works. We have a number of key strategic priorities for this year, obviously keeping everybody safe, our people first initiatives, ensuring good, excellent operational performance for our clients, sustainable growth and also innovation, which is very pertinent for this session today. We've got a number of rail projects across the country, whether it be in New South Wales, which I'll say a few more words in a minute, but also working down in Victoria on the Melbourne Metro works, Queensland delivering both elements of the big, large Cross River Rail project, and also delivering one of the Metronet projects over in WA. In relation to into our New South Wales projects, we are delivering part of the Parramatta Light Rail, which will connect Westmead to Carlingford via the Parramatta CBD and Camellia with a 12k two-way track. That is obviously in construction at the moment, with the COVID managing to get more works done in the public space. Out in Dubbo, working as part of the Momentum Trains Consortia, building the regional rail facility out there. Earthworks is ongoing. They say it doesn't rain in Dubbo, but recently it's been rather wet. Working also, recently finished the alliance with Transport for New South Wales on the new intercity fleet, the Blue Mountains route clearance, working in those 10 tunnels, a very challenging job, but completed on time and very successfully. Also recently completed the Moorebank Rail Link, which involves the construction of the 2.8 kilometre line along the supporting infrastructure to connect the import-export terminal and interstate terminal to the Southern Sydney Freight Line. That work is now complete. Also working on my last project, working on the line-wide project, part of the City and South West works for Sydney Metro, due to complete 23-24. And that is it. So, moving on, our next session is going to be led by Gareth Beynon in relation to the Ken Erickson Award. I'll just introduce Gareth and I'll pass over to him. Gareth is a highly experienced rail professional with 20 years across a broad range of areas within the rail industry. A qualified civil engineer, Gareth has held roles across numerous major projects, including leading rail construction and commissioning of the Newcastle interchange, project management of the Newcastle light rail track form, and his current focus is on project development within the country rail network. After many years' work in both the public and private sectors, Gareth is now the lead engineer and director of Link Rail and Civil, which specialises in providing engineering and project management solutions. Throughout his career, Gareth has placed a particular focus on innovation in the rail environment. Whether it is driving construction teams to find new approaches or generating a safer way to work, he has an expressed interest in combining technical expertise with novel strategies to adapt solutions to new problems. It is this desire for being involved in innovation within the industry that led him to his involvement in the Ken Erickson Innovation Award. Gareth, welcome.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you for the opportunity to chair the panel session today, as well as talk about the Ken Erickson Innovation Award. Just a short note on Ken Erickson. I'm a little bit young to have met Ken, but he's widely regarded for his ideas and drive within the committee in his years there, and obviously fittingly so, this award's named in his honour. With the Ken Erickson Innovation Award being closely aligned with the conference theme, we've obviously got a unique opportunity to merge the normal award ceremony with the panel session today, and hopefully it gives some strong insight into where we sit as an industry with regards to innovation. Just, have you got the clicker there? Just a quick note with regards to my the judging panel and subcommittee. Huge thank you to Peter, Sanel and Raquel for their involvement this year. For me personally, it's been hugely rewarding to do this. The quality of the submissions this year was far in excess of what we've had in recent years, and yeah, really enjoyable to be involved with. Just now to the submissions. We had 6 this year. As I mentioned before, really high calibre in terms of the submissions. A really good cross-section of the industry as well in terms of public and private sectors, and a really good cross-section of focus areas within the industry as well, which was pleasing to see. In addition to the normal summaries that go into the journal, a new initiative for this year, and probably in line with the online theme, all of the submissions of the entrants are now listed on the PWI webpage. You'll notice at the bottom of the slide here that we have a link there. You can dive onto there and read the full submissions at your leisure. Some really interesting reading amongst those. Whilst time doesn't permit today to go through the details in full around these submissions, I think it's fitting that we at least highlight the key aspects of those, so I'll just take you through a short summary of each of those. After many years of a fix and observe management strategy for Stanwell Park cutting, Rajul Karim and his Sydney Trains team took on the challenge to come up with a longer term value for money solution. The solution included an attenuation barrier in combination with tail drapery. Knowing the tight constraints of the existing rail infrastructure, they added a vertical restraint rope. This helped to manage key areas of infrastructure like overhead wiring structures. It was really pleasing to see in this submission that they considered a lot of things across the breadth of the full project life cycle that wouldn't normally be considered. Things like maintainability, environmental aspects, construction challenges. The Plateway team, led by Emil Tokalich, saw an opportunity to improve upon the traditional method of inspecting turnouts and the consequent planning of appropriate maintenance and renewal strategies. The team's approach was to challenge The team's approach to the challenge was to increase the volume and quality of the data to analyse the turnout. This additional data was combined with a database and processing model to provide detailed plans for both maintenance and renewals. The team also put considerable effort into the data capture method, focusing on reducing time on track for both safety and operational benefits. As the operator and maintainer of the CRN network, John Holland identified a safety risk to its on-track inspection staff in relation to work on-track authorities. Prior to the implementation of ETWV track patrol, there was a potential for track vehicles to exceed the limits of their authority, leaving their crews exposed to significant danger of collision. By working with internal stakeholders, they were able to develop a tool that provided in-vehicle information to both the operator and back to network control. This allowed warnings to be provided to both the operator and network control should an authority be exceeded. Off the back of a project need to overcome site-specific clearances, the team led by Andrew Mackenzie developed and implemented a torsion bar backdrive system. The torsion bar backdrive system had an added benefit of enabling pre-assembly of the turnout, the turnout's mechanical equipment prior to transportation and installation. Off the back of the pre-assembly, significant on-site safety benefits, as well as quality and possession reduction, a reduction in possession times was achieved. The team had a strong approach around testing, collaboration, and the use of prototypes, which enabled the final outcome to be successful. Julian touched on this project in his introduction. This submission set out the challenges of removing part of the tunnel lining of several Blue Mountain tunnels. This was to accommodate the new NIF rolling stock. The Continuum Alliance tried differing machine arrangements to remove the lower section of the tunnel lining, including development of their own bespoke machines. It was great to see the team continue to challenge their original ideas and change their processes throughout. Given the challenge of trying to reduce the exposure to staff in the danger zone, the team set about implementing a new application of LiDAR technology to undertake platform measurements. The team managed to undertake all of the required assurance and resolve technical issues to implement the change in a short time period. Of particular note with this work is that it's the first step of a major implementation across other critical track and structures measurements, giving the opportunity for future safety improvements in years to come. So quite a brief sort of run through of the projects. As I said, all of the full submissions are available on the website and encourage people to dive in there and have a read at their leisure. Off the back of the success of those submissions, we've obviously been able to gather a panel of individuals heavily involved in current innovations within our industry. So hopefully we get some great insights from them today, both on their individual innovations as well as more industry-wide comments as well. You'll note that we've only been able to have 4 panellists today, despite our 6 nominations. Unfortunately, COVID's restricted that, but as I said, hopefully the 4 that have been selected can give some great insight. Just at a personal level, I'd like to thank the panellists for putting themselves forward for this, and certainly putting their ideas and so on out. Just to introduce each of the panellists before we dive into some questions, I'll just run through a short bio on each of the guys. David Mackney has been with John Holland on the Country Regional Network for the past 5 years and is currently the Manager, Maintenance Delivery, covering various domains across track, structures, signalling, plant, facilities and logistics. David has been in the rail industry for over 30 years, starting out in 1990 as a cadet civil engineer in the government railways and continued in various engineering roles and organisational incarnations through to 2011, where he commenced a 4-year role on the Sydney Light Rail with Transdev. In 2015, David joined the John Holland team as Principal Track and Civil Engineer for CRN. Welcome, David. Andy Mackenzie came into the rail industry via a more unconventional route than most, having previously worked in concert production, broadcast technology, technical training and journalism. Since joining Sydney Trains in 2015, Andy has been instrumental in introducing many changes to design, construction, operation and maintenance, always arguing that almost everything can almost certainly be done better. He's an advocate for systems engineering and collaboration, with a particular focus on breaking through the perennial interface issues between track and signals engineering around points. Andy is a muddy boots engineer who subscribes to the theory that every good engineer should have a close and personal understanding of the equipment in their field of expertise. When not working, Andy reads books, carries on the perpetual renovation of his house. He had a potted plants once, he tells me, but it died. Amel is a civil and track engineer, specialising in design, project management and rail asset management. Since joining Plateway in 2017, Amel has worked on a number of different projects within civil and rail engineering. During this time, he has specialised in project management, civil design and rail asset and condition management. Amel has undertaken the asset management of the Cobar branch line, as well as been the primary civil engineer in Plateway's operation within New South Wales and WA. The last member of our panel, John. John is an experienced project manager and leader with a proven track record of successfully delivering rail infrastructure projects in New South Wales. Over the past 2 decades, he has led teams to successfully deliver rail projects, including North Sydney Station Upgrade, the Kings Grove to Revesby quadruplication, and the Sydney Metro train facility, and most recently, the Blue Mountains route clearance work. John commenced his rail career as a cadet civil engineer with the State Rail Authority in 1987. He has extensive experience working in the live rail environment across a range of rail infrastructure projects, including earthworks, bridges, stations, tunnels, depots, as well as overhead wiring, permanent way and signalling. Welcome, guys. So I might jump into some questions now, and I'll probably put you under the spotlight first, Dave, if I can. Funding's often a constraint to progressing innovation. Can you just talk to how you've managed to sort of navigate that process with your innovation, the VTWV?
Sure, thanks, Gareth. I will say, like all the submissions you've said earlier, all the submissions are on the PWI website. If you actually want to learn a little bit about ETWV, you can have a read of it, or actually go into the, there's a YouTube link with a short video that demonstrates how it works. In regards to funding and those sort of issues, I suppose good ideas are free. That's one good thing about innovation. But with this particular project, I suppose I could say we had that holy shoot moment when we had a serious safety incident on our network, and funding, it is a consideration, but it's one of those things that we had to put aside for the time being. As John Holland, we actually funded this project ourselves, mostly so we could get in early, get it done. The network owner probably would have funded it eventually, but we had to get in. We had control of it, and what the backstory for the need for the project is, which isn't so much in the submission. I think I was sitting in the chair for a couple of months as the maintenance manager. And we had one of our track teams have an authority. They were doing a patrol between 2 fixed points, which they've got authority to do. They were travelling along, they were inspecting assets as they go. They got towards the end of their limit of authority, and for whatever reason, the guys just purely kept on travelling along. and there was no alert back to the control room. There was no warning for them. They just purely missed it. Whether they were busy, who knows. They kept travelling for about 600-700 metres for about 10 or 15 minutes. And the only thing that prompted them, they would have kept going, we believe. The only thing that prompted them was actually a train was coming the other direction, albeit it was coming slow. There was no injuries as a result, but they were in that potential risk for a period of time. So when you talk about funding, that sort of took a bit of a secondary position for this particular project. And we got straight into dealing with a safety issue. And when we looked across the industry, we noticed that there was quite a huge exposure that had been there for a very long time. So that was probably the trigger point for us in this particular project. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Dave. Might just step in now to, I suppose, the definition of innovation. It was interesting to hear the concept of 10x this morning. There's always the definition of innovation as sort of a bit of a discussion point. Obviously trying to get step change as opposed to just continuous improvement. Might sort of throw to you, Amel, if I can, around this one. So what are your thoughts around step change and your sort of implementation? And how do you compare that in terms of, did you achieve a step change or was it just continuous improvement?
I think that continuous improvement is certainly a goal to strive for. So in our project, we sought to develop a more advanced turnout inspection process. And it was really only through continuous improvement that the process was made more efficient. So by incorporating experience of different members of the project team. Each one of them contributing an incremental improvement, leading to, I'd say, a step change. So in this case, a need arose that necessitated this step change. And look, for the most part, this is effectuated by continuous improvement that is then implemented, as a single step change at once. So often you get improvements in different sectors. For instance, we spoke earlier about technology. Once that comes to a front, you can then begin to implement a step change from the advancements of those sectors. That's it.
Thanks, Amel. It was interesting from a judging perspective, the different level of management oversight and involvement within innovation. You've heard some of the earlier presentations talk about how the organisation actually allows innovation to occur. Might just throw to you, Andrew, if I could. Where do you think the best ideas come from with regards to innovation, and how does that sit within the organisational behaviours?
I'd say my view is that innovation's more likely to rise out of the mud than to fall from the sky, because it tends to be, there's two ways to innovate. You can either innovate because someone's had a good idea and you go, yes, let's use that idea, or you innovate on the basis of need. The basis of need, I think, sees probably more innovation than the other. And I also think there's a risk in terms of management issues, not with managers in particular, but everyone's trying to drive a culture of innovation. And we see a lot of the time you get senior managers get told that one of their performance indicators is innovation, which when they're being checked on it every year means that they're under pressure to innovate every year to meet their performance indicators. So they're under pressure to implement changes, and there's a risk that drives people introducing change for the sake of change to tick a box, rather than a change that actually improves any sort of situation. So generally, I would say it's probably successful innovation more often is driven by a need, whether it's an immediate need or whether it's a need that people have identified proactively as this isn't a problem now, but in 5 years it will be. But I think it's, I think you're more likely to see innovation grow from a need than from some sort of push downwards.
Excellent. Some great thoughts there. John, just to possibly throw to you on that one then as well. So what's your sort of experience and so on in terms of where innovation comes from, where it best comes from and how it's actually managed?
Well, I agree with Andy in that a lot of it's driven from the bottom up, but I also think it's a balance. Andy talked about having KPIs in senior management, and it's an incentive for them or a driver for them to create or promote innovation. It is one of my KPIs on my annual reviews, and I see it as a good incentive and driver to promote innovation. And coming back to the balance, it's very important. From the bottom up, you have these great ideas where they can, enhance things. And to me, innovation's about making life easier. Taking that, if you've got the environment that's driven from above, from management, that encourages people to think and either encourages them to be able to foster ideas and communicate with others. And going back to what Dave was saying, if you've got the support from above and the funding, it just makes it so much easier to create something from an idea.
Excellent.
Yeah, sorry, can I step in there again, Gareth?
By all means.
I'd agree with John on that in terms of support and, fostering of innovation from management. And I think it's a good thing to say that management need to be supporting it. Where I was talking about the issue is where people are told, you as a manager must innovate, rather than putting something in there which says support and, encourage innovation from your teams, which I think is probably more what I'd be looking for.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, guys. So just touching on, obviously, a key focus area of our industry in terms of safety. There was a lot of the submissions that had some level of drive in terms of that base need to start that whole process in and around safety. There was lots of them around how do we manage works in and around the danger zone, which was quite interesting to see. Whether that's an industry trend or not, or just something from the submissions. It's difficult to tell. Might just sort of get you, Amel, to talk through some of I suppose, the fact that we are using innovation to drive what we're doing. In a lot of places, it's actually innovating into the engineering space, sort of beyond the initial ideas. Might just get you to talk to your submission and how you actually sort of step through that and, I suppose, use that safety thinking throughout your submission and innovation work.
So I think our project really had two sides of it with regards to safety. From the perspective of the asset management, we found that in a lot of cases, there's a lot of gaps in the data that's collected to maintain your assets. And where it is collected, it's not necessarily well understood or analysed. It's not really being utilised to its full potential. And that obviously has negative consequences for safety in the reliability of your assets. So from that point, I think perhaps we are a bit behind the times in the utilisation of technology, in sort of predicting failure of assets and driving safety through that. And I suppose the other side to our project with regards to safety is, as you said, the reduction in time on track. That's not a new driver for the rail industry, but we had a big requirement to decrease track time and increase safety around that front. And again, we turned to technology, being able to record the data faster, being able to capture more data with it, and in a safer manner, under shorter possessions, really sort of was the key emphasis of the safety aspect of our project. The next step along the line, for us at least, is again trying to remove the worker from the track. So we're exploring that through sort of drone technology and other alternative technologies to really keep workers out of the danger zone as much as possible.
Thanks, Emil. Dave, just to probably put a different slant on that thinking around safety and so on, it's obviously been a driver for a lot of these nominations, and particularly yours. Is this a trend that we should see sort of continue? Is safety as a driver of innovation sort of the, I suppose the continuing driver, or is there other new areas of innovation that we should be pushing into?
I suppose I got there's two answers for this one. So in terms of what's coming in terms of innovation, especially for rail, as John Holland on the Country Regional Network, we are primarily asset managers. That's our fundamental goal or objective, and we have a lot of data as a result of that. And I heard a few of the speakers talking earlier today, which is quite good, that data is the next area of innovation, especially in rail. It can help us drive better decision making. And for some of the people here in the audience, in the room, traditionally a lot of the knowledge was held by the track supervisors, track superintendents, the maintenance engineers. But now that's moved over into the data space. And we have a lot of it, and it's really, well, now that we've got it all, what do we do with it? But getting back to the other part of the question, which is in the safety part of should safety be driving the innovation? I think the next bit for me is using our submission as an example with ETWV, is we started working on it after the fact. So we had a safety incident, pretty severe, and we immediately started working on that innovation. But what we should be thinking about is, we should have been working on that well in advance. I know, hindsight's a great thing, but and when it comes to safety, it's we're actually looking for what's the next safety thing that should be working on without actually having to wait for an event to occur. So that's probably the two areas for me. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks, Dave. Throw to you for this one, John, and Julian sort of touched on it before with regards to CPB's principles or values. One of those was innovation. Now, if you were to jump onto any company's website, you'd probably see the word innovation or a variant of. Just interested to sort of hear your comments and thoughts around the reality of that being on a website. Is it actually lived out, and how does that actually come out, sort of, using CPB as an example?
Yeah, well, it's like any value or principle you see on companies' websites. People will always question, are they real believers in it, and do they drive it? It is a principle of CPB being innovation, and I've seen that in the case for the Ken Erickson Award with our wall shaver and the use of the Amberg trolley and the machine guidance. We had the full support of CPB Lend-Lease, and it was also an objective of the client, Transport for New South Wales, to promote innovation. So we had that support all the way through. CPB regularly promote ideas that have come from the workshop floors. Things that come to mind are some of the maintenance of our heavy vehicles up in the Pilbara and things like that, and the mechanics would come up with an idea and they'd be driven right throughout the project and then advertised company-wide. Julian also touched on the line-wide project earlier. There's been I've been involved with some of the people that transferred off our job up in the Blue Mountains onto the line-wide project, where they've taken their ideas, their experience, and given the opportunity to develop specialised plant for that project. That I'll have to ask Julian. I'm not sure if it's arrived in the country yet, but it will be very soon. And yeah, and it's not just a principle without any substance behind it. It's good to see it, and I'm sure all the other representatives here have the support of their company as well.
Thanks, John. Might go to you, Andy, and it may not have sort of been talked about too heavily, but Andy's actually, well and truly from the signalling fraternity, and it's actually good to have him as part of a panel like this, to get his sort of differing views and so on. Andy, you obviously sort of come from an opposing angle to lots of people sort of involved with today, but you were able to sort of get very good interaction and outcomes in terms of the around the points and the interface between sort of both track and civil. Do you just want to talk to how you actually were able to pull that together and some of the process that you had to go through and challenges you had around that?
Yeah, it's interesting the way you phrased the question. You come from a somewhat opposing viewpoint. There is, and I don't know why, there is a culture of, I don't know, it's almost a war zone between track and signalling. And unlike everybody else here, I came into the rail industry late. And when I first came in, I'm still bemused by it. I don't know why that divide exists, because it makes no sense for it to exist. Particularly where I am, I probably 85% of my job is associated with points, and you can't do that. You can't just go, oh yeah, I'm signals, I do point rodding. Oh well, I'm track, I do turnouts. Well, it doesn't work like that, and it'll never work like that. You need to work together, and I think there's a big cultural problem in that an awful lot of track engineering people don't have a clue what a point machine does. They don't have a clue how it works. They don't have a clue about its capabilities. And a lot of signal people have absolutely no idea of the operating parameters of a turnout. They have no idea what the steel does, what the concrete does, how it all holds together, what its wear rates are, any of that. And I think it's a big problem. And I think that actually helped me with getting everybody to work together, was an element of just, I don't know, almost just wandering around shouting at people from both sides.
And how did you actually get through that process and get the success to be able to implement?
I don't know, I guess it's an element of selling to everybody what the benefits are for them. So, from a signals perspective, there's reliability issues, there's maintainability issues, there's safety benefits, there's all of that. From a track perspective, you've still got the safety benefits, you've got some construction benefits, you've got some issues with where it originally started was we had a problem with converting some old full depth turnouts to tangential turnouts. We needed to move points to get everything to line up right. See how I said we, even though that's a track thing? Did you notice that? Some of the points needed to move, and all of a sudden we were winding up with a situation where if we put the back drives we'd used previously on, we would have had to dig holes out of the corners of station platforms. We would have had to figure out ways for pieces of steel to go through one another, all that sort of thing. So there was that benefit. And then when I looked at it one day as I was watching a turnout come off the train, and I said to the track engineer next to me, I said, I reckon we could just about put a back drive on that and get it off complete. And that sort of built off from there to say, Well, okay, there's potentially a big benefit for track construction here. And then the guys on the Tampers came through and they went, that's really easy to not hit. So there's a benefit for track maintenance. So being able to push it out to everybody is, look, this is not a signals thing. This is a points thing. This is good for signals. This is good for track. This is good for maintenance. This is good for construction. Everybody wins. And I think being able to sell that idea and break through the idea that what signals want is never what track want, and what track want is never what signals want. Being able to get past that, I think, makes a big difference to the mindset that people bring to it and to the support. I mean, this whole thing, it's the signals design project funded by the turnout renewal people in track in major works. So, you know, there's obviously been an element of collaboration there, in that we just went, look, everybody wins. Nobody has to lose here. So that was where we drove that from.
Yeah, no, and it's really interesting as you talk there, Andy. You know, the other panelists are actually nodding, whether that's coming through on the camera or not. You know, and even the few people in the room here. So, yeah, really interesting in terms of what you're talking about there, and that collaboration and how you show that mutual benefit to all disciplines and so on. So, yeah, definitely it shone through in the submission, and yeah, really interesting to hear that. All right, now that probably just draws a conclusion to the panel session. So we might just quickly sort of finish up on the actual award of the Ken Erickson trophy. So one thing from a judging committee perspective, I've mentioned it a few times, but the quality of the submissions has probably put us in a position where we can award both a winner but also a highly commended for this year, which is a really great outcome. The other thing I'd probably just like to note is again a thank you to all the companies and individuals that put the effort in around making their submissions. I know some people sort of spent, you know, a lot of their personal time in doing that, so certainly from my perspective, really appreciate that. And also to put the challenge out to everyone else in regards to, you know, submissions for next year. As we talked about sort of innovation on websites and, you know, company values and things like that, I really think that people are innovating, they're just not prepared to tell people about it. So really encourage those submissions for next year. All right, so we'll jump into the award of the highly commended award. The winner of the highly commended Ken Erickson Innovation Award for 2020 is the Torsion backdrive improvement, Sydney Trains, Andrew McKenzie.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. It's all yours.
Much appreciated.
Thanks very much, guys. Now we'll jump into the major prize here and jump straight into the Winners Award. The winner of the Ken Erickson Innovation Award for 2020 is ETWV Track Patrol, John Holland, Country Rail Network.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, congratulations. Do you want to say a few words?
Sure. So get Andy's way. Right over here. Firstly, on behalf of John Holland, I'm sure, I can see Steve in the room, and everyone else. Thanks for the award, PWI, much appreciated. This really, I can't take credit for this one. This really goes out to our John Holland operational team who project managed this from the get-go in conjunction with Fortel, our partners, and but you know, there was a lot of work went in the background from our plant team, our maintenance teams to actually get this implemented over the line. For all the other guys, great submissions. For the audience that are out there, get on and have a read. They're actually quite good. They're all a little bit different if you look through them. They're all about improving people's lives, and that's what this one was about for sure, and improving the safety of the network. So, and if anyone's out there interested in the product, get in contact with us. We're keen to see this rolled out to other parts of the rail industry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gareth, for that well-run session. And look, well done for the winner, David, and also runner-up, Andrew, and also all the contestants. Getting 6 innovation awards this year is fantastic. I think the last year we only had 1 or 2, and obviously want to reiterate what Gareth said is, yeah, please, you know, innovation is occurring all the time on our projects, whether we think it or not. Let's get those applications in next year, please. I meant interesting, Andrew talking about track and signalling. Then when you add in the overhead wire, the civil, drainage, and all those other lovely things, you know, we need to make sure that in the rail industry, we're all working together on that construction site from a design all the way through to commissioning, because obviously that is critically important. Okay, now on to the next part of the second session is going to hand over to Mark Harris, who's going to be doing a short interview with Caroline Wilkie, who is the newish, I think you've been in your job now, Caroline, since January, so it's a long time ago really, as the ARA CEO. Mark, over to you.